This is the old Durban International Airport. By 2040, this whole area will be covered by water. And it will be the city's new dugout port, the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, with 3 times the capacity of Durban's existing port. This port is already the busiest in Southern Africa, with more than 4,000 commercial vessels docking here each year. According to forecast, container traffic is growing at 8% a year, and although Transnet has made significant investment in improving the efficiency of container handling services here, it will not be able to cope with future vessels and cargo traffic.
I mean, the primary reason for developing the port is that at a point in time, somewhere in the early 2020s, 21, 22, the Durban port is going to run out of capacity. So purely in order to continue with the growth of the country, to handle the growth in containers, we need a new substantial container facility. We've investigated options on the East Coast. We've investigated Richards Bay, the Port of Mthokozisi in the Eastern Cape, and Durban. And because 65% of the contents of the containers either originate from Gauteng or are destined for Gauteng, the logistics cost, having the port positioned in the Durban area, is substantially cheaper than any of the other options.
It is intended to play a major role in transforming South Africa's economy from a predominantly raw materials export-based economy to one focused on local manufacturing and beneficiated exports, with job creation to boot.
I think anyone who has been able to be closer to the dugout port project, you would know that the current estimates are standing around about 100 billion rand worth of investment. And that is actually huge in any number. Secondly, it actually then seeks to boost South Africa's and increase South Africa's TEUs from 2.7 million where we are to around about more than 20 million TEUs. This is not even, it's about almost 10 times more where we are. So it says to us, it is important therefore that in doing this, the country is projecting to have a huge growth. Remember that this port is not only servicing South Africa's interest, it is also servicing the interest of many countries in the region. And for us, it means one thing. We can catapult ourselves in the future to become one of the hub ports in the world. We can link ourselves with some of the most biggest hub ports like the Port of Shanghai and the Port of Rotterdam. But also, because we are projecting huge growth in volumes, you would actually be knowing that other than the jobs that will be created in and around the port and the back of the port development, we are very clear that if you see how countries have grown, particularly in the emerging economies such as China, those countries have grown at the backdrop of huge exports. And we are very, very clear that if South Africa has to deal with the challenge of its current account, in particular to be able to increase the surpluses in terms of capital reserves, China is standing at 12 trillion US dollar reserves. Within South Africa, where we're seated, we can do even much more better than where we are. And therefore, to do that, it means we are going to have to be able to trade with other countries and other nations of the world. That in itself will stimulate domestic growth and domestic demand, but it will ensure that indeed we create many, many jobs in many sectors. So for us, this dugout port is a catalyst, both in terms of positioning ourselves to trading with the world, but it also allows us to be able to stimulate expansionary growth in order to ensure that those industries that would actually be servicing the industry that would be exporting are also able to grow as well.
The project is still in its feasibility stage, but when all plans are in order, it will be located at the site of the former Durban International Airport.
A project of that size is obviously a lot of challenges. There's the waves, the species on the site, the fauna and flora, all of the environmental issues, all of the local community concerns, the detailed designs, the other businesses that are in the area, how they're going to be impacted on the connection for rail. We want the port to be built in a community friendly manner. We don't want to land up in a situation where the roads are congested and so on. So the planning around getting in and out of the port from a rail and a road perspective, that's receiving a lot of attention.
Securing funds for the project and clearing environmental hurdles are some of the challenges, but Transnet plans to start construction on Phase 1 in mid-2016 and wants to have this phase completed by 2020. Ever wondered why you don't hear many gruesome stories of sharks attacking humans on KZN shores often? Well, it's all thanks to the KZN Sharks Board for providing protection for potentially dangerous sharks on protected beaches of KwaZulu-Natal. Let's hear what they have to say. The KZN Sharks Board headquarters are located in Umhlanga Rocks, Durban. The board's main mandate is to ensure the safety of bathers in the protected beaches of KZN. And for the past 40 years, it has done this successfully.
We were set up in 1964, following a spate of shark attacks along the KwaZulu-Natal coastline of Durban in 1957. So 3 years later, Sharks Board was established. Core mandate to protect the bathers against shark attacks. And as far as I'm aware, we are the only organization of its kind in the whole world, though we're not the only people who do what we do and in the manner that it's being done. Basically, we cover the KZN coastline from Mthokozisi on the north all the way to Port Edward on the south, which is the border between the Eastern Cape province and the KwaZulu-Natal province. We've got some 11 base stations in between.
The Sharks Board's research into striking a balance between protecting bathers and preserving the environment is respected worldwide. And there's a continuing exchange of information with overseas countries. It's also known as the only institute of its kind in the world.
We have a combination of what I call the shark safety gear, we call it SSG for short. A combination of drum lines, which are the baited hooks, as well as the traditional old nets that we deploy at sea on a daily basis. We are, however, out of our own accord, but also because the Act, the KwaZulu-Natal Sharks Board Act, enjoins us to find continuously creative ways, innovative ways that are less harmful to the environment. As a result of that, we are now embarked on a project called the Shark Repellent Technology.
In leading the environmental charge while fulfilling its obligations, has seen the Sharks Board come up with innovative ways to keep the beaches safe.
We would have come up with an innovative solution to bather protection problem across the globe. And we don't think that it's kind of a product that anyone that has a sea or an ocean surrounding them can say no to, which means it will sell itself, and we're quite confident that if all goes well and it's tested and it passes all the tests, we would have come up with one of its kind again, one of our own, very own South African innovation, which will then sell it to the world.
However, there are challenges the board has to overcome in carrying out their vision of safer beaches.
Ideally, you want to have a world where both the sharks will thrive and the tourism will thrive at the same time. The challenge is there's a lot of them, mainly from the environmentalists, who obviously are very sensitive to any marine living resource getting stuck in our nets. You would have pressure from those groups, but also the whale population itself is growing, and it collides with our nets, and that's one of our biggest challenges. But thirdly is the issue of education and publicity, so that people are aware of what Sharks Board does, and I suppose this is part of doing exactly that. And we are also doing what we call our outreach programs as part of trying to respond to the pressure of people needing to be enlightened about what we do.
The board has identified various strategic areas for sustainable organizational growth and development.
We do go out on an outreach programs where we visit various places, strategic points, if I may mention the few places such as the malls, the beaches themselves, and we visit the schools, and we do more or less the same thing. On an open space, we will take a shark with us and we educate the members of the public where they are. I'm referring to the beaches. To the schools, we go out to the schools, we do invite them, we recruit them, we tell them about our establishment, we tell them about our existence. We at the same time invite them to come here because this is where we've got all the facilities, things such as our display area, like the one we are standing at the moment. We do have, the information displays, and we do have places such as our audiovisual and also our shark dissection presentation.
They offer morning boat trips for tourists to observe staff at work, checking the shark safety gear, as well as an excellent chance of spotting a variety of marine life. But the most popular attraction is the dissection of a shark back at the headquarters.
We get different sharks that we dissect and show to people. We do dissections not every day, so on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays and the first Sunday of the month. So people get to touch and feel the shark skin, they get to touch and feel the shark's teeth, they get to interact with me as I am sharing this interesting information about sharks. Sometimes you'd find that we are dissecting a big shark, sometimes you'd find that we're dissecting a small shark. So it's not every day that sharks are caught up in the net or in the drum lines.
From the show, it's off to the research department where they do further investigation on the shark and share their findings with the rest of the world.
The research division is a very important component of the Sharks Board. Our organization's mandate is to provide protection against shark attack and to reduce the risk of shark attack. And one of the best ways to do that is to improve our knowledge about sharks. So we try and collect as much biological information on the sharks to get a better understanding of their life history, their movements, their reproductive cycle, their feeding habits. And this is information which we've collected over many decades. Whenever there's a shark attack, we investigate it. Fortunately, very few shark attacks occur in our province, but shark attacks also occur in the rest of the country, and we try and collect information. The more information we've got about those incidents, the better we can understand why those shark attacks might have taken place, and maybe we could provide some advice to try and reduce the risk of shark attacks happening in the future.
The KZN Sharks Board will host the second Sharks International Conference in Durban in June 2014, proving once again that they are leaders in research and in growing the industry. Well, we've come to the end of another exciting episode of Eye on KZN. From me and the team, Salani Gahle.